Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our stakeholder engagement on temporary protected status for Venezuela. My name is Bechem Ebini, and I am with the Public Engagement Division within the External Affairs Directorate, Office of Citizenship, Partnership, and Engagement. I will be your facilitator today. Before we get into our main presentation, I would like to review some housekeeping items with you, beginning with this disclaimer. The information we are sharing is for informational purposes only. We are not providing legal advice. The information we are sharing today is intended solely for our outreach to stakeholders. Let me take a few minutes to share some reminders for today. Members of the media who may be joining us, please note this session is not for press purposes. For any media inquiries or on the record statements, please email our Media Affairs Division at media@uscis.dhs.gov. Any staff from congressional offices who are joining us today, if you have any follow-up questions or any briefing requests, please email the USCIS Office of Legislative Affairs at USCIS Congressional Inquiries at uscis.dhs.gov. Following our main presentation, we will take questions submitted to us through the Q&A box before closing the event. You can find the Q&A box in the right side of your screen. We will try to address as many questions as possible. We might not have time to respond to each question, but we will provide detailed information about today's topic. Please note, we cannot answer questions relating to ongoing litigation or case-specific questions. For general information, comments, or feedback, please email public.engagement@uscis.dhs.gov. Again, that email address is public.engagement@uscis.dhs.gov. Today's presentation materials will be made available and posted to our USCIS electronic reading room in the next several weeks. As a reminder, all lines are muted and will remain muted for the duration of the event. Now, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. We will discuss the eligibility requirements for TPS Venezuela and how to apply by paper through USCIS Online. Joining me today are Guillermo Roman Rivkol of the Service Center Operations Directorate, Sarah Baga of the Office of Intake and Document Production, Quinn Andrews from the Office of Access and Information Services. Let me begin now with Guillermo of the Service Center Operations Directorate.
The Secretary of Homeland Security may designate a country for TPS due to the following temporary conditions in the country: ongoing armed conflict, such as civil war, an environmental disaster, such as an earthquake or hurricane, or an epidemic, or other extraordinary and temporary conditions. Initial TPS designations, extensions, and redesignations remain in effect for 6, 12, or 18 months, depending on the Secretary's discretionary decision. Before a designation period ends, the Secretary determines whether to extend TPS for another period of 6, 12, or 18 months. The Secretary must terminate the TPS designation if they determine the country conditions no longer support the designation. Last month, on September 20th, Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas made 2 key announcements on TPS for Venezuela. First, he extended Venezuela's 2021 TPS designation for 18 months, from March 11, 2024 to September 10, 2024. 2025. Second, he separately redesignated Venezuela for TPS for 18 months from October 3rd, 2023 to April 2nd, 2025 for Venezuelan nationals who have been continuously residing in the United States since July 31st, 2023. This also includes individuals with no nationality who last habitually resided in Venezuela and meet this criteria. Secretary Mayorkas made the decision to extend and redesignate Venezuela for TPS after careful consideration and consultation with interagency partners, because Venezuela continues to experience an unprecedented political, economic, and humanitarian crisis that merits this extension and separate redesignation. USCIS published a Federal Register notice with details about TPS for Venezuela on October 3rd, 2023. Individuals who currently have TPS based on Venezuela's 2021 designation can keep their TPS through September 10, 2025 if they re-register and continue to meet the eligibility requirements for TPS. There are approximately 243,000 current Venezuela TPS beneficiaries who are eligible to re-register under this extension, and approximately 35,900 pending applications under Venezuela's 2021 designation. To ensure they keep their TPS and work authorization, current TPS beneficiaries under Venezuela 2021 must re-register in a timely manner during a 60-day re-registration period from January 10th, 2024 through March 10, 2024. Because not all re-registrants may receive a new employment authorization document, or EAD, before the current EAD expires, Department of Homeland Security, that is DHS, is automatically extended through March 10th, 2025, the validity of certain EADs previously issued under Venezuela's 2021 TPS designation. Initial applicants who still have a pending TPS application or TPS-related EAD application file under Venezuela 2021 do not need to refile. I'm going to repeat that. These individuals who still have a pending TPS application or a TPS-related EAD application filed under Venezuela 2021 do not need to refile, and neither do re-registering current beneficiaries with a pending TPS application or TPS-related EAD filed under Venezuela 2021. If USCIS approves an individual's pending Form I-21, that is the application for temporary protected status, filed under Venezuela 2021, we will grant them TPS through September 10th, 2025. Similarly, if we approve a pending TPS-related Form I-765, application for employment authorization under Venezuela 2021, we will issue the individual a new EAD that will be valid through the same date. And I'm going to repeat that date, that is September 10, 2025. Understanding the need for protection for those who are ineligible for TPS Venezuela 2021, the Secretary Mayorkas also announced a separate redesignation of Venezuela for TPS. Under what we are calling Venezuela 2023, approximately 472,000 additional individuals may be eligible for TPS and related employment authorization under the separate redesignation of Venezuela. This population includes Venezuelan nationals in the United States in non-immigrant status or without immigration status. The first day individuals can submit their initial TPS application under Venezuela 2023 was October 3rd, 2023. All individuals who want to request TPS under Venezuela's 2023 redesignation must apply by April 2nd, 2025. An individual filing an initial TPS application may also apply for an EAD by submitting a complete Form I-765 and may apply for travel authorization by submitting a completed Form I-131, which is the application for travel document. I'm going to repeat the name of these two forms. For an EAD, the form is the I-765, and for travel authorization is Form I-131. Again, that's the application for travel document. Venezuelans who were not residing in the United States on or before July 31st, 2023 are not eligible for TPS and may face removal if they do not have legal basis to stay in the United States. If you do not currently have TPS and would like to file an initial application, you may do so under the 2023 redesignation of Venezuela for TPS. You are eligible to apply if you are a Venezuelan national or have no nationality and last habitually resided in Venezuela, continuously resided in the United States since July 31st, 2023, and were continuously present in the United States since October 3rd, 2023. An individual is not eligible for TPS if they have been convicted of any felony or 2 or more misdemeanors in the United States, are found inadmissible as an immigrant under applicable grounds in the Immigration and Nationality Act. This is the INA, Section 212A, including non-waivable criminal and security-related grounds, failed to meet the requirements for continuous presence or continuous residence in the United States, failed to meet initial or late initial TPS registration requirements, or if granted TPS, failed to re-register for TPS as required without good cause. TPS beneficiaries have the following privileges. They are not removable from the United States unless they violate their TPS. They can obtain an EAD if they apply for one. They may be granted travel authorization. They cannot be detained by DHS on the basis of their immigration status in the United States. And they may apply for other non-immigrant and immigrant status or benefits they may be eligible for. However, TPS is a temporary benefit that does not lead to lawful permanent resident status or give any other immigration status. Now, to discuss how to register or re-register for TPS, I will turn the presentation over to Sarah Badger of the Office of Intake and Document Production. Thank you.
Thank you, Guillermo. I'd like to begin with how you can apply for TPS. There is one mandatory form, the Form I-821, Application for Temporary Protected Status, that you must submit. You will use this form to re-register for TPS under Venezuela 2021, or if you're applying for TPS for the first time under Venezuela 2023. TPS applicants must submit evidence with their Form I-821 proving their eligibility, including evidence of identity and nationality, their date of entry into the United States, and continuous residence. Filing fees are posted at uscis.gov/I-821. TPS applicants may request a fee waiver by submitting Form I-912, which is a request for fee waiver, with their Form I-821. You can find more information about the fee waiver at uscis.gov/I-912. Let me repeat that. You can find more information about the fee waiver at uscis.gov/I-912. My colleague, Quinn Andrus, will provide an overview of how to file for TPS through the USCIS online account. But if you are filing a fee waiver, you must file Form I-821 by mail using a paper form. If you choose to file for TPS on paper, you may download the most recent version of Form I-821 from uscis.gov/I-821. Filing fees vary, but there is no charge for the form itself. Read the accompanying instructions, which answer many of your questions. Be sure to include any required documentation with your application. Sign the application and include the correct fee. These are the two most common mistakes USCIS receives on TPS applications. Filing for TPS online may prevent these avoidable mistakes from happening because the system will not let you submit an incomplete application or an incorrect fee. Each country that is designated for TPS may have different filing requirements and different places to send your application. You can find links for information specific to each country currently designated for TPS at uscis.gov/TPS. You can find information about any filing fees at uscis.gov/I-821. There is a chart and a fee calculator to help you determine your fee. You can pay the fee with a money order, personal check, or cashier's check, or pay by credit card using Form G-1450, which is the authorization for credit card transaction. If you file online, you can make a secure payment online using a credit or debit card at pay.gov. There is a $50 filing fee for Form I-821 if you're filing for the first time. There's no filing fee if re-registering under this extension. There's an $85 biometrics fee for applicants age 14 and older. There are also additional fees to file for an EAD, a travel document, or a request for a waiver of grounds of inadmissibility. You can find all the fees on uscis.gov. You may request a fee waiver by filing Form I-912, which is the application for fee waiver, and providing proof of inability to pay. You may not file Form I-912 online. You must file it on paper with the accompanying Form I-821. In addition to the Form I-821, TPS applicants may want to or need to submit these other forms. The Form I-765, Application for Employment Authorization, is an optional form. File in category A12 or C19 if you want a TPS-based EAD as evidence of your identity and employment authorization, which is required to work in the United States. Form I-131, Application for Travel Document. This is also an optional form. File it if you want to request permission to travel outside the United States while we are processing your TPS application. Form I-601, Application for Waiver of Grounds of Inadmissibility, may be required to overcome certain grounds of inadmissibility. Check uscis.gov/fees for associated filing fees. If you're filing Form I-821, Form 765, or Form I-912 for TPS Venezuela on paper, and you live in California or Texas, you would mail your application to one of the addresses listed here on the slide, depending on the method in which you decide to mail. There is a U.S. Postal Service address and a courier address. If you're filing Form I-821, Form 765, or Form I-912 for TPS Venezuela on paper, and you live in Florida, you would mail your application to one of these addresses that are listed on the slide, depending on your method of mailing it in to USCIS. If you are filing Form I-821, Form I-765, or Form I-912 for TPS Venezuela on paper, and you live in Illinois, Indiana, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Utah, or Virginia, you would use one of the addresses provided on the slide here. If you're filing Form I-821, Form I-765, or Form I-912 for TPS Venezuela on paper, and you live in all other states other than the ones that we have mentioned previously, you would mail your application to one of the addresses provided here. If you wish to file a Form I-765 under a non-TPS category, the filing address depends on your reason for applying and the eligibility category you entered in question 27. Please check the filing locations for Form I-765 at uscis.gov/I-765-addresses. If you file at a lockbox, please read the filing tips that are located at the address noted on the USCIS website. Don't forget to sign your form. We will reject and return any unsigned form. Applicants will need to show evidence of their identity and nationality. You may establish your nationality and identity by submitting documents such as a passport, certificate of naturalization, or certificate of citizenship, birth certificate accompanied by photo identification, or national identity document from their country of origin with their photograph or fingerprint. If these primary documents are not available, the regulations at 8 CFR 244.9 state that you may provide an affidavit describing why the documents are unavailable and also submit secondary evidence. Such secondary evidence may include nationality documentation, such as a naturalization certificate, even if it does not have your photograph and fingerprint. Your baptismal certificate, if it indicates your nationality or a parent's nationality. Copies of your school or medical records, if they have information supporting your claim that you are a national from a country designated for TPS. Copies of other immigration documents showing your nationality and identity, or affidavits from friends or family members who have close personal knowledge of the date and place of your birth and your parents' nationality. The person making the affidavit should include information about how they know you or are related to you, and how they know the details of the date and place of your birth and the nationality of your parents. The nationality of your parents is important if you are from a country where nationality is derived from a parent. Please also see the Form I-821 instructions for more information on secondary evidence. Applicants will need to show evidence of the date they entered the United States. You may establish date of entry by submitting documents such as a passport or passport entries. Form I-94, arrival/departure record, or documents used to establish continuous residence. This is not an exhaustive list. Applicants will need to show evidence that they have resided in the United States for a continuous period of time. You may establish presence and continuous residence using documents such as passport or passport entries, Form I-94, arrival departure record, employment records, Rent receipts, utility bills, or receipts such as gas, electric, telephone, etc., or letters from companies showing dates when the applicant received service, money order receipts for money sent in or out of the United States, and birth certificates of children born in the United States. Some additional options are correspondence between the applicant and others, Social Security card, bank books with dated transactions, selective service card, attestations of the applicant's residence by churches, unions, or other organizations, or affidavits. Complete and sign Form I-821. Mail the Form I-821 supporting forms, evidence, and filing fee to USCIS. You'll receive a receipt notice by mail. You may also file Form I-821 online. We will talk more about this later in the presentation. Attend a biometrics appointment at an application support center, and the applicant may also receive a request for evidence or notice of intent to deny. You must timely respond to avoid possible denial. Applicants will receive a decision notice by mail. If we approve your TPS, you will also receive an EAD if you filed Form I-765 and we approved it. If the Secretary extends a country's TPS designation, then TPS beneficiaries must re-register for TPS during each registration period. The re-registration period for TPS Venezuela is January 10th, 2024 to March 10th, 2024. If you fail to re-register without good cause, this is a ground for mandatory TPS withdrawal. Check uscis.gov/TPS to learn whether we have automatically extended EADs. Even if your EAD has been automatically extended, you may wish to file a new Form I-765 to obtain an EAD with an updated expiration date. During an extension period of a country's TPS, we will accept a late re-registration application if you establish good cause. You should submit a letter with Form I-821 explaining your reasons for being late. USCIS will consider late initial applications if you meet specific conditions outlined in 8 CFR 244.2 F and G, and also described on uscis.gov/TPS. Each person seeking TPS must apply individually on a separate Form I-821. There is no derivative TPS. This means your spouse, children, or parents cannot obtain TPS based on your approved TPS. Each TPS applicant must individually meet the eligibility requirements for TPS. This ends my portion of our presentation. I will turn the presentation over to Quinn Andrus of the Office of Access and Information Systems.
Good afternoon, everyone. We strongly suggest that you file online when possible. If you're familiar with the paper form, you might see that it looks a little bit different online, but it collects the same information. It's just organized a little bit differently. Both first-time TPS applicants and TPS beneficiaries who are re-registering may apply for TPS online. If you filed Form I-821 online, you may also file Form I-765 application for employment authorization online. And if you wish to request a fee waiver, you must file that on paper, not online. You must submit Form I-912 request for fee waiver along with any accompanying forms such as the I-821 or the I-765 and any evidence required by mail. I saw a question in the chat about if we're going to put the fee waiver online anytime soon, and the answer is we do not have plans to put that form online at this time. When you work online in your filing, please read all the instructions and work at your own pace. We automatically save your answers when you file online. We save draft forms for 30 days from the last time you worked on them. If you do not return to your form within 30 days, however, it will be deleted and then you will have to begin again. Before applicants can file Form I-821 online, they will need to create a USCIS online account if they don't already have one. There are several ways to access an online account. On our uscis.gov homepage, there is an activity tile at the bottom called File Online. This section has information on filing online and where to start creating an account. Also, on the top right, there's a sign-in link where users can sign into their account if they have one, or create a new account if they don't have one. Users can easily find where to log in using the URLs that are shown on the right side of the slide. Our USCIS.gov website has a page dedicated to online filing, where you will find many resources to help you file the Form I-821 online through a USCIS online account. The File Online webpage contains our newest video, How to Apply for Citizenship Online. Although this video talks about filing Form N-400, it is a beginning to end tutorial, and it has helpful information about using a USCIS online account. When you create your online account, be sure to explore that and the other tools and resources that are offered. When you submit your Form I-821 and, if necessary, the Form I-765 online, you can pay for them both at the end using US funds from an automatic bank withdrawal or a debit or credit card. You'll then be brought back to your case in your online account and you can see your submitted forms. This is also where you will find your receipt notice after we post it in your account. You can track the progress of your form in your online account. In your account, you'll find this case card. There is a case card for each form you have filed. The case card has 3 tabs which you can see here: case status, case history, and documents. The case status tab is linked to our case status online page. This tab shows the same information that would show up on that case status web page. The Documents tab is one of the most important features of the account. It contains all the notices and correspondence we issue, as well as all the evidence you upload to your case. This is also where you would see a request for evidence. You should check your Documents tab often to see if there are any new requests. There were some questions in the chat about the status of a filing. People were uncertain if it had been received or if it was being processed. When you file online, you have the confidence of knowing that your application has been received because the receipt appears immediately as you file. We encourage applicants to submit their responses to requests online. Online submissions reach us immediately, and you can see right there in the case card that we received your submission. Applications that are submitted online reach us faster than forms that are filed in the mail. However, once they are received, they both move through the process with the same priority. On this screenshot at the top, you see the notices an applicant receives from us, and toward the middle, the evidence they uploaded. On the bottom, you can see a document uploader that is labeled unsolicited evidence, meaning evidence we did not specifically ask for. Use this uploader to submit changes or corrections or any additional evidence that you think is necessary. We encourage filers to make sure they review the instructions and submit all necessary evidence at the time of filing. If you fail to submit required evidence when you file, we may deny your application. Applicants can upload additional evidence, but there's no guarantee that we will review unsolicited evidence or consider the evidence during the adjudication of your case. Make sure you submit as complete a filing as possible when you file online. We also encourage you to give your documents logical file names like birth certificate or marriage certificate instead of the automated name that the computer gives it when you create the document. This makes it easier for the Immigration Services officer who is handling your case to identify what the documents are. The USCIS website offers the following customer service tools. You can check your case status, you can change your address, you can check processing times. Also, look at our TPS webpage, which has a page for each TPS country. There are also customer service tools in your online account. such as biometrics rescheduling if you need to change your biometrics appointment, change of address, and others. Please take a look and see what's there. We also want to remind you to be cautious. We highly recommend that you visit the USCIS Avoid Scams webpage to learn more about form filing tips, common immigration scams, how to report immigration scams, and how to find legal services and help. Thanks for your time, and I'll turn this presentation back over to Bechem.
Thank you, Queen. Now we are going to move into the question and answer session, and we are going to take questions from the Q&A box. We ask that you limit your questions to today's topic, which is TPS for Venezuela. We are only able to answer questions on this topic during today's engagement. We are also unable to answer case-specific questions or questions relating to ongoing litigations. Now that we all know what we're supposed to ask for today's engagement, I am going to transition over to reading the questions that participants or attendees have submitted so far. The first question reads, if I file my TPS before the federal registration was released on October 3rd and the fee was paid, I did not receive any receipt and I am not sure if my case is being processed. Do I need to refile the form or pay the fee again? Is my form being processed? Wepla, you want to help us with that question?
How are you? I'm happy to answer that question. So applicants should wait until they receive a notice in the mail to prevent duplicate filing and fees. If it is outside processing time, we recommend that the applicant reach out to the Lockbox support. I'm going to provide that address in a moment, and by sending either a text or a message to the Lockbox support, they will receive an answer to the status of their application. So I'm going to repeat. Actually, I'm going to say the address is lockboxsupport@uscis.dhs.gov. Again, that is lockboxsupport@uscis.dhs.gov. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Guillermo. And just hang in there because the next question goes to you. And the question reads, I have TPS 2021 approved, re-registered on 2022, but haven't received the approval yet. Do I have to re-register again to extend until September 2025, or should I just wait and receive the approval with a new date?
Yes, thank you for that question, Bechem. So the answer is no. So an individual, a TPS beneficiary who has re-registered for TPS and has a pending re-registration application should not refile. That is to say, there is no need to submit or file a new application. So if USCIS approves the re-registration application, of course, they'll receive an approval notice through September 10, 2025. This is the end date of this recent extension of the designation of Venezuela for TPS. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Guillermo. And before we move to the next question, I just want to highlight that to make mention of the fact that the email that Guillermo mentioned, which is the Lockbox support email, has been posted on the Q&A chat, so you can get that email from there. The next question reads as follows, sorry. Do I need to refile and pay the fee again?
So TPS beneficiaries who wish to maintain their TPS must re-register for TPS. So the 60-day re-registration period for this specific extension is from January 10th, 2024 through March 10, 2024. So yes, they would need to re-register for TPS, and they there is no associated fee for the Form IA-21 re-registration. However, they need to pay the biometric services fee or request a fee waiver. Now, if the individual has already filed the re-registration application, there is no need to file again. I repeat, if the individual already filed their re-registration application and that application is still pending, there is no need to refile that application. There's no need to file that application again. And the same applies for a pending Form I-765. Thank you.
Thank you, Guillermo. So the next question reads, if I have a pending asylum application and have suffered a political arrest, will my TPS application be denied?
So all TPS applicants must meet the applicable eligibility requirements for TPS. So these requirements are distinctive. They're separate from asylum applications. And what we're trying to explain here is that the case will be evaluated within the context of TPS. That is to say, whether or not the individual meets the eligibility requirements for TPS. So again, this is separate from an asylum application that has a very distinctive set of questions and requirements. And for those individuals who want to read again the eligibility requirements, these eligibility requirements are listed in the Form IA-21 instructions, and also they are available on the dedicated TPS page in the USCIS website. We do have a specific page in our website, in the agency's website, dedicated to TPS, and we list all requirements for TPS. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so Guillermo, please hang around. The next question goes to goes to your directorate. So the question reads: Can we apply for Form I-131 travel before we have been approved for TPS? I have applied for TPS 2021, but still waiting status. And Guillermo, while you answer this question, can you also touch on filing fee for I-131? Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. I will address the first question first. Yes, an individual with a pending Form IA-21, that is to say the individual has not received a final decision on his, her, or their case. Yes, they may submit Form I-131 to request a travel document. Yes, they may do so. So with regards to the form fees, the applicable form fee is I'm sorry, I have to double check here. It is $575, and of course they can also submit a Form I-9112 request for a fee waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Guillermo. So another question that we've seen, I think like we've seen about 2 or 3 of these. Our participants or attendees want to know if we are going to share this the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, as mentioned earlier, that we are going to after a few weeks of from today, we are going to publish or post this PowerPoint presentation on our USCIS electronic reading room. So just be on the lookout for that. The next question is reads, and this goes to OIDP. The question is, for people who are sheltered in the New York City shelter system, including hotels outside of New York City, could a confirmation letter that they are residing in the shelter or hotel be sufficient proof of means tested benefit for fee waiver purposes?
Hi, Patricia. I covered that. question. Regarding using this, I would refer to the information on USCIS website under I-912, and there's a link at the bottom that shares regarding a filing fee waiver. And then in that link, go to the bottom where it says what may demonstrate financial hardship, and it provides additional information regarding shelter and all the eligibilities needed from that document to provide that to confirm the applicant is residing in a shelter.
Thank you very much for that response. So the next question goes back to SCOPS. If someone is re-registering, they don't need to pay the filing fee, but must pay the $85 biometric fee. Sorry, the question wasn't really they did not really phrase this correctly, but I guess they are trying to ask if they can, if you have to pay the biometric fee when re-registering. Guillermo, I think you touched about this.
Yes, I'm happy to. Yeah, absolutely, Bechem, and thanks for the question. So individuals who are already beneficiaries of TPS and wish to re-register for TPS must submit Form IA-21. This is a Type 1B re-registration, and there is no fee associated with this re-registration application. So again, they do not pay a fee when they file this form. However, they must pay the biometric services fee, that is $85, if they are 14 years of age or older. So let me repeat that. If they are 14 years of age and older, they must pay the biometric services fees. This is the amount is $85, and they can also request a fee waiver. So that is also permitted for these individuals. Thank you.
Thank you, Guillermo. So I'm going to go back and touch on a question that we normally received for our TPS engagements. The question reads, what is the difference between continuous residence and continuous physical presence?
Hi, Bechem. I'm going to answer that question.
Sure.
So I think that I would like to start with remembering the applicable dates under this redesignation, which is effective October 3rd, 2023. So to qualify for TPS, an applicant must show both continuous residence and continuous physical presence in the United States from certain dates that are determined by the Secretary of Homeland Security and specified in the Federal Register notice regarding the country's TPS designation. So let me stop here and go back to some important elements about what I just said. So first, we have a continuous residence date. We also have a continuous physical presence date in the United States. These are determined by the Secretary of Homeland Security, and individuals will find these dates in the Federal Register notice. So individuals can find the dates in the Federal Register notice that is posted in our website. So if they visit the TPS Venezuela page, they're going to see a link to the FREN. But they can also see these dates listed on the Venezuela page. So we have a dedicated section where we provide these two dates. Now, for this redesignation, and as I just mentioned, the effective date of this redesignation is October 3rd, 2023. An applicant must demonstrate a continuous residence in the United States since July 31st, 2023. as well as their continuous physical presence since October 3rd, 2023. Now, let's address the definition of what is the definition of continuous physical presence and continuous residence in the United States. So for that, we need to look at the regulations, the implementing regulations for TPS. It is 8 CFR, that's the Code of Federal Register section 244.13, and the regulations define the terms as follows. So continuously physically present means actual physical presence in the United States for the entire period specified in the regulations. An individual shall not be considered to have failed to maintain continuous physical presence in the United States by virtue of brief, casual, and innocent absences defined within this section. With regards to continuously resided, it means residing in the United States for the entire period specified in the regulations. An individual shall not be considered to have failed to maintain continuous residence in the United States by reason of a brief, casual, and innocent absence as defined within this section, or due merely to a brief, temporary trip abroad required by emergency or extenuating circumstances outside the control of the individual. Now, in practical terms, and I think that this is perhaps the most significant part of the answer, is that to show continuous residence in the United States, an applicant may provide, among other things, a utility bill dated on or before July 31st, 2023. Any other documentation that has that date or precedes that date, showing that they've been in the United States since that date. And again, the date is July 31st, 2023. And individuals may show continuous physical presence with a passport, the I-94 record, or other documentation like a utility bill that shows presence as of the continuous physical presence date, which is, as I mentioned earlier, October 3rd, 2023. So I know that this is a lot, it's a long answer, but I always invite our guests to visit the dedicated TPS page in our website, because it does provide very good, helpful, complete information about how to file, what are the eligibility requirements for TPS, what type of documentation they may submit, documentation that should accompany their form I-821. Of course, this information is also in the form I-821 instructions, but this dedicated page is very, very helpful, explains everything in a clear manner. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guillermo. So one last question for you, Guillermo. And this question has to do with a travel document. Again, I know you touched a little bit on travel document, but an attendee is asking if, as actually acknowledging that we mentioned that TPS beneficiaries can request a travel document. So this attendee wants to know, under what circumstances can we request it? And is there any restriction on traveling to Venezuela?
Thank you, Betchen. I will address the second part of the question first. So there are no travel restriction to Venezuela. So I will repeat this. There are no restrictions with regards to traveling to Venezuela. And now the answer to the first question, individuals with an approved I-821, that is to say beneficiaries, TPS beneficiaries, and also TPS applicants, meaning those individuals that are filing their I-821 for the very first time, can submit a form I-131 to request a travel document. Travel within the context of TPS is provided as a humanitarian, or I should say under a humanitarian basis. As always, I recommend that individuals read the Form I-131 instructions carefully, make sure that they answer all the necessary questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Guillermo. I think we are at the top of the hour. So I would like to thank everyone for participating in today's engagement. I would especially like to thank all my colleagues who joined me for today's engagement. If you have any feedback regarding today's engagement, please email us at public.engagement@uscis.dhs.gov. You can see the email is right now on the slides that you have. So please use that email if you have any questions or concerns or feedback relating to today's engagement. Again, thank you for joining us and enjoy the remainder of your afternoon.